Kyra.
And we're here today to talk to you about the Transcontinental Railroad and its interrelationship with steel, oil, coal, and guns.
We're covering time period of 1870 to 1900s.
So come on this journey with us to the past from the future.
Ring, ring?
Hello?
Is that a Connecticut connection?
We've got plenty of those in store too.
Enjoy the show.
Freeze, sucker! Mom, can you be quiet? We're gonna learn about Samuel Colt. So, Samuel Colt was born on July 19th in Hartford, Connecticut. Connecticut connection. He was a blacksmith with his father until Sam started inventing guns at age 21. Impressive. And he used nitrous oxide, otherwise known as laughing gas, for more explosive shots. Patented his first revolving chamber pistol, the Colt 45, very popular in the West, in New Jersey, United States, obviously, at 22 years old. He created his first gun in 1835 in Europe. Business boomed when Captain Samuel Walker bought 1,000 revolvers for the Mexican-American War in 1845. This actually allowed Colt to create the company that is so largely noticed today. And with this victory of the Mexican-American War, this had allowed the United States, America, to actually focus on westward expansion and create the railroad.
Also after the Civil War as well.
Yes. And his first factory was created in 1848 next to the Connecticut River. So Samuel Colt actually created the Colt Armory in Hartford, Connecticut in 1855, and with 10-hour days, he produced on average 150 guns a day, which is pretty impressive for times back then.
Wow. That's really impressive.
Actually, during the first 25 years of his manufacturing, he produced 400,000 revolvers. 400,000!
That's a lot.
And he, of course, died a wealthy man because everybody wanted one of these guns. And he built a mansion for his wife, Elizabeth Jarvis, in Connecticut. It was called the Armsmere, called the Meadow of Arms, and is still a historical land site today. Thank you. Another gun maker, Eliphalet Remington, was born October 28th, 1793 in Suffield, Connecticut. Yay, Connecticut connection! He was actually a blacksmith in New York and was motivated to make guns because he couldn't afford them, and he was interested. So he actually handmade a flintlock rifle at age 23 with his father and manufactured it in 1816. He got married and he had 3 sons, each having an active role in his gun business in 1840, and created E. Remington and Sons, which you may have heard of, but the company actually became Remington Arms Company Incorporated, and he sold rifles during the Civil War and World War I and II. His standard gun was called the Winning of the West, and Remington introduced America's first gun barrel made from solid steel in 1845. Like Samuel Colt, the guns contribute to the railroad because they were sold to the men who fought in the war, who eventually allowed us to focus on our actual country and expanding and revolutionizing our country, and became the Transcontinental Railroad. So, bueno. Hello. Regarding the investors of the railroad, Leland Stanford, as in Stanford University, contributed largely to the railroad. Born in Watervliet, New York on March 9th, 1824, he became a lawyer and was propelled to move west for the gold rush in California. Stanford was an owner of a grocery store with his brothers, but he became very involved with politics there, and in 1850, Stanford was nominated by the Whig Party as Washington County, Wisconsin District Attorney. He's considered one of the Big Four associates that funded the Central Pacific Railroad, which was incorporated on June 1st, 1861, and Stanford was elected president. And he planned the westbound section of the railroad by securing massive investments and land grants. And he was the 8th governor of California, serving from January 1862 to December 1863, and he was the first Republican governor. He was inaugurated president of the the Central Pacific Railroad on January 8th, 1863, and unfortunately, to our dismay, he made a lot of decisions without associates' consent, so he was kind of unreliable. But actually, Stanford University, he was the founder of it, and it is called, the official name, Leland Stanford Junior University, and he dedicated it to his son, the junior, because he contracted typhoid and died at the age of 15. Thanks. Hey, it's me again. I'm here to talk to you about another big investor of the Central Pacific Railroad by the name of Collis P. Huntington, who was born October 22nd, 1821 in Harwinton, Connecticut. Yay! So, like Leland Stanford, he rushed to California for the gold rush in 1849 and became partners with Mark Hopkins of a hardware store. Huntington was also a Republican, and the Republican administration offered an opportunity with Hopkins, Stanford, and Charles Crocker with the railroad. Huntington was elected vice president of Central Pacific Railroad from the opportunity from the Republican administration, while Hopkins was treasurer, and Crocker was the construction supervisor. It's impressive because Huntington was also a lobbyist for the company. He offered, this isn't that good, but he offered bribes in Washington and was never caught. Sneaky one. And he did convince Secretary of Interior Orville Browning to approve the railroad line in Utah. So it's definitely very persuasive. In 1864, he supplied the railroad with raw construction supplies and material from Manhattan, so he was really prevalent in the East to grabbing all the supplies, getting all the money. In 1865, the Big Four also formed the Southern Pacific Railroad, which constructed rail lines down Southern California and across the Southwest to New Orleans. And Huntington helped expand the Southern Pacific Railroad into a 9,600-mile line that was the foundation of rail service in California, and Western Link for a Southern Transcontinental rail route. He was referred to the symbol of the nation of great economic power concentrated in individual hands. So you could say that he was the Alexander Hamilton of the 1800s regarding the railroad. Thanks.
Hello, I'm here today to talk about Cornelius Vanderbilt and his eldest son, William Henry Vanderbilt. So, he was born on May 27th, 1794, and became involved in the sailboat business and steamboat business as a young child. He invested in general transportation industry, and for most of his life was the owner of various transportation systems. In 1860, he founded the New York Central Railroad, which was the first four-track railroad ever invented, by merging several railroads together.
Several?
Wow! He actually made $25 million in the first 5 years in the industry.
He seems rich.
So much money! He actually sent his oldest son, William Henry Vanderbilt, to Chicago to manage the railroad creation expansion out west.
What did he do on his deathbed?
On his deathbed, he gave his entire estate and company to his eldest son, William Henry Vanderbilt.
My goodness.
Estimated at over $100 million. Wow.
That's interesting. I learned a lot.
He's great. Also, after his death, he gave his entire estate to William Henry Vanderbilt, who managed the Chicago Railroad networks. And after his death, took over the company and carried out the family legacy. He fought against railroad regulation like the Interstate Commerce Act of 1887, and he also
77,
fought
I think it was.
1877. Thank you. He also fought increased freight rates by his competition and rewarded his workers who did not participate in the union's strikes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He sounds like such a fair man. Would
He
you
was
say?
great.
You would say he's fair.
I would.
Okay.
He was a great man. And actually, he transformed the railroad system and made it an economic and cultural environment, and promoted the use of railroads and having houses in towns built near the railroads.
Ah.
And on his deathbed, only 8 years later,
Oh,
his estate,
tragic.
his estate was over $200 million. So almost double.
Very successful, it appears to be.
Yeah, he was a great man. So, James Hill was born on September 16, 1838 in Canada, but moved to America in 1856. He initially grew up working in Minnesota on a steamboat company, and after investing and making money, he and a few friends bought the St. Paul and Pacific Railroad Company.
Hey, what's that?
Okay, well, it was bankrupt, so when they bought it over, they renamed it the St. Paul, Minnesota, and Manitoba Railroad.
Hey, I know that one.
In 1879.
He kind of sounds like James Vanderbilt, yeah?
Yeah, he actually worked at a steamboat company as well in his younger years.
Oh, bueno.
So, he updated the railroad materials from wool to coal, and iron rails to steel rails. Because he was really invested in his company.
Steel's much stronger than iron.
Yes, it was much better quality as well. So, he continued westward expansion by finding the shortest and straightest path across the Northwest, with the help of John Stevens. He saw underdeveloped West and wanted to improve it with the Great Northern Railroad Company of 1890. He also allowed immigrants to travel west for $10 if they settled there.
$10?
Yeah, people from Norway and Sweden would travel from the east side of the United States to the west side if they settled there.
So cultural diversion.
Yes, diversity as well. Although he didn't take federal subsidies like other railroad companies had done. So he didn't take any money from the government to build these railroads.
Independent man.
Yes, he was all about the culture and economy and wanted it all based on himself. So he invested in better quality materials because he wanted long-term results and expansion. And he also believed in trade routes along the Red River, which is near the Canada line.
His hometown.
Yes, where he grew up and lived. That's it. That's all I have.
Hello, and we're here to talk to you about Standard Oil.
Who was it founded by?
A man by the name of John D. Rockefeller.
No way! I know him! Wasn't that the guy that founded the Standard Oil Company in 1892?
It was!
No
What else
way.
do you know about John D. Rockefeller?
He actually created 600 new tank cars and cut prices.
Oh, when was he born?
He was actually born on July 8th, 1839, and passed away May 23rd, 1937. And also, he was part of the Standard Oil Trust from 1882 to 1892.
We'll get to that later.
He had so much money, he actually hired someone to take care of his fortune.
Did he ever have any nervous breakdowns?
He did in 1890.
Well, by golly. Now,
Just
I'll tell you
Oil.
about Standard Oil. Okay, so, as we know, our pal John D. Rockefeller founded Standard Oil. It was an American oil refinery located in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow, interesting.
It was established in 1870, and it was one of the largest oil companies in the world.
Wow, surprising.
I'm surprised. It did actually, in fact, end in 1911 when the Supreme Court ruled that its monopoly of the oil market was illegal.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so they had to end
Shut it
it.
down.
John D. Rockefeller was the founder and the chairman and also a major shareholder. He really ran the place. And with the dissolution of the Standard Oil Trust into 33 smaller companies, Rockefeller became the richest man in the world to this day.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do because the company grew so large?
Well, he worked very hard and very controversially. Many people did not agree with his tactics of Standard Oil. The company grew so large because Rockefeller and two other part owners bought out other sinking oil companies and needed relief. These tactics were often frowned upon by other people. However, they did drop kerosene prices by over 50% from 1865 to 1870.
Wow, that's great.
Right? It is. Additionally, from 1882 to 1906, Standard paid out $548,436,000,000 in dividends.
Whoa.
At 65.4% payout ratio.
So they got a lot of money, right?
The total net earnings were, in fact, $838 billion.
That's a lot for that time period.
Right?
Wow.
Additionally, we have a Connecticut connection here. Did you know that there is a Standard Oil Company located in Connecticut as a nod to the Standard Oil empire of the past?
No way! That's
Woo,
so cool!
Right. So, yeah. Do you have any more questions about Standard Oil?
Well, so, did they sign the Standard Oil Trust?
They did. They signed the Standard Oil Trust.
Great.
Saying they could dissolve, purchase, divide, and do other things to other companies, which really isn't anything that's legal, but it helped them obtain their monopoly of the oil market from all the other oil companies.
Great! Wow! Thanks so much for the information on the Standard Oil Company.
Anytime, pal!
Today we're going to talk about Andrew Carnegie, a prominent member of the Rlrd Society. He was a Scotland-born, self-made entrepreneur who modernized the railroad system by attempting to drive down costs of steel in order to make cheaper steel products. He made bridges, skyscrapers, and trains more affordable by creating larger mills with huge staff so that
he could create a larger productive line, increasing profit.
Yes, exactly. He also helped spur the economy in America by creating more jobs, increasing the national prestige, and creating a higher quality of life. On the contrary, in order to help create these lower costs, Carnegie's workers often had lower wages than other workers and less job security. Carnegie's mills were often chaotic, but they were run by coal.
Coal, you say? That makes sense, considering coal was necessary for trains and the advancement of the economy at that time. It was one of the most abundant and affordable forms of energy at the time, and by 1900, U.S. was the #1 producer of coal.
Wow.
Additionally, coal helped power all sorts of things, from trains to homes to factories and so on. However, there was a lot of drawbacks, considering coal was very dirty and produced dark, thick, black smog wherever it was fired.
You don't say. That probably had to do with so much of the danger in the mills.
It probably did. I would say safe bet.
What were the top 5 coking coal producers?
Sorry, what did
Well,
that even say? I'm sorry, what was your question?
Emily, what?
Emily, down! Time for Guess That Mystery Process.
Whoa.
A game in which, if Allie guesses the mystery process incorrectly, she gets slapped with this board.
Oh my gosh.
So, here goes. Out of each pot roared alternately a ferocious geyser of saffron and sapphire flame, streaked with deeper yellow. From it a light streamed, a light that flung violent shadows everywhere and made the gray outside rain a beautiful blue. A fountain of sparks arose, gorgeous as 10,000 rockets, and fell with beautiful curve like the petals of some enormous flower.
Well, I know this already, Kyra. I know it.
What is it?
It is the Bessemer process.
By George, she's correct!
Ding, 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 ding!
Woo!
Okay. Well, the Bessemer process was invented by Henry Bessemer in the 1888. It was a process of turning pig iron into steel, which helped to...
Did you say pig iron?
Yes, I did, in fact. Pig iron is the unrefined version of steel, which was much less strong. This process blew steam and other hot chemicals through the pig iron to create the steel, making it more suitable for creating a railroad.
Oh, so like chemistry.
Actually, Bessemer stole this process from William Kelly, who was unfortunately too poor to continue to hold his patent. He sold it to Bessemer, who patented it as the Bessemer process for mass-producing steel. This helped to allow unskilled men to create vast quantities of steel cheaply. It was first installed in Braddock, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh, but soon became obsolete in the 1930s. Carnegie's greatest mills all happened to be in Pennsylvania, which was the home of Pittsburgh, the greatest steel center in the country. Braddock, Pennsylvania,
Duquesne.
Duquesne, and Homestead, Pennsylvania, were the most productive small towns that had Emily, go back. Steel in the whole world. They prioritized efficiency over safety often, and this created a lot of difficulties in their work environment. It wasn't a very technical innovation that Carnegie had. He just liked to scale the work production up by employing a lot of people and making his factories much bigger to create more product. He happened to be the largest manufacturer of pig iron, steel rails, and coke in the world. In 1888, he bought out the Homestead Steel Company and expanded his business further.
How did that benefit him?
Well, by 1889, he was the greatest steel producer in the entire country, and he continued to buy out other companies, including one in Berlin, Connecticut.
Hey!
Oh my
Connecticut connection!
Oh my goodness!
Berlin Steel
We are
happened
from that.
to belong to him.
Oh, wow.
Steel proved its relevance in the Eads Bridge project over the Mississippi River in St. Louis. By 1892, he experienced his first large and difficult labor strike to handle, and the union ended up losing, and it was set very far back in the Homestead strike.
No.
Now, unfortunately, the demise of Carnegie happened in 1901 when it was sold into U.S. Steel, which is currently, even today, the largest steel company in the country.
Tough boss.
And that's all we know about Andrew Carnegie.
When I say hill shot, you say farm. Hill shot.
Farm!
Go me! And